My parents didn't lose me, they left me. And laughed. I'm Lily Harper, 31, and this morning 17 missed calls from Texas brought it all back. I was still staring at my phone when my tea went completely cold. 17 missed calls, same Texas number. My name is Lily Harper, 31, average height, slim, dark brown hair, usually tied in a loose bun, the kind of person who learned to look calm even when everything inside is shaking. I built that calm. I earned it. And now, it was cracking. My apartment in Seattle smelled like fresh paint samples and cedar wood, part of my latest project. I run a small interior design studio, and today was supposed to be big. A luxury client. A contract that could change everything. Clean lines, neutral palettes, control. That's what I design. That's what I need. Lily, you've been frozen for 5 minutes! Ethan Cole stood in the doorway, tall, about 34, athletic build, sandy blonde hair slightly messy, calm eyes that rarely miss anything. A software engineer, steady and patient, the kind of man who doesn't raise his voice because he never needs to. He walked closer, lowering his tone. Who is it? I didn't answer, because I already knew. Shadow, my rescue dog, a black shepherd mix with one torn ear and anxious golden eyes, pressed against my leg. He does that when I'm not okay. Animals always know before people do. I didn't need the voicemail. Because some memories don't knock. They break in. A number. Texas. And suddenly my chest tightened the same way it did when I was 13. Standing somewhere I didn't belong. Waiting for people who never came back. My laptop screen still showed the contract draft. Numbers. Deadlines. Success. None of it mattered now. Because the past doesn't care how far you've run. Ethan reached for my hand. Hey, you don't have to go through this alone. His voice was steady, but I could feel the concern underneath. He knew pieces of my past. Not all of it. Not the worst part. I exhaled slowly. My thumb hovered over the screen. 17 missed calls, 1 voicemail. I pressed play. From the outside, we were the kind of family people admired without question. Our house sat in a quiet suburb outside Austin, white fence, trimmed lawn, warm porch lights that made everything look safe. My mother, Elaine Harper, early 40s, tall and slim with perfectly styled blonde hair, always carried herself like she was being watched. In public, her voice was soft, controlled, almost kind. My father, Richard Harper, mid-40s, broad-shouldered with a confident smile, was the kind of man neighbors trusted instantly. He was charming, persuasive, the type who could sell anything, including the illusion of a perfect family. At home, that illusion cracked. My mother loved calling everything a lesson. Spill something? Lesson. Forget something? Lesson. Cry? Biggest lesson of all. But there was no comfort, only control. My father would stand nearby, arms crossed, sometimes smiling like he was watching a show. Once, I heard him joking about how long it would take before I broke. They didn't see it as cruelty, they called it strength. The ferry terminal wasn't the first time. When I was 9, they left me outside a grocery store because I asked for candy. I remember the automatic doors opening and closing while I stood there, counting minutes that felt like hours. At 11, they made me step out of the car in a parking lot after I complained about school. Each time they came back laughing, like nothing had happened. So I learned. Not the lessons they wanted, but survival. I stopped asking for things, stopped crying where they could see. I studied their moods like it was a language I had to master. If I stayed quiet enough, invisible enough, maybe I could get through a day without being chosen. The only place I could exist without fear was on paper. I drew everything, rooms, windows, places far away from that house. My art teacher, Mrs. Alvarez, around 50, short curly gray hair, gentle eyes, always smelled faintly of paint and coffee, once held one of my sketches longer than usual. "You feel deeply," she said softly. That terrified me, because if my parents ever saw what I felt, they'd tear it apart. So I hid every drawing under my bed. I didn't have the words back then. I just knew something wasn't right. My only friend, Mia Torres, a petite girl with dark braided hair and a quiet but fiercely loyal personality, Once asked why she could never come over. I smiled, made up an excuse. But deep down, I knew the truth. Because if anyone saw what happened inside that house, the perfect family would disappear. I remember that morning too clearly, the kind of clarity that doesn't fade with time, only sharpens. My parents told me we were going to San Francisco for the day. My mother, Elaine, wore a light beige coat, sunglasses hiding half her face, her posture straight and composed like always. My father, Richard, drove with one hand on the wheel, relaxed, humming along to the radio like nothing in the world could go wrong. I sat in the back seat, clutching my small sketchbook, hopeful in a way I didn't fully trust. Maybe this was normal. Maybe this was what other families did. We stopped near a busy ferry terminal by the water. People moved quickly. Tourists, workers, families, voices blending into a constant hum. My mother turned to me, her tone casual. "Wait here, 15 minutes. I asked if I could come with them. My father laughed, not loud, but enough. "You're not a baby, Lily." So I nodded and stayed. I always stayed. At first, I believed them. I stood near a metal railing, watching boats drift across the gray water. 15 minutes passed, then 30, then more. My chest tightened slowly, like something inside me was waking up. I checked every face, every car. I told myself they were just late. They had to be. A couple approached me. A man and a woman, both in their 30s, dressed like tourists with cameras hanging from their necks. The woman had kind eyes, soft voice. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked. I froze. My mother's voice echoed in my head. "Don't embarrass us. Don't talk to strangers." So I shook my head, forced a small smile, and said I was waiting. They hesitated, then walked away. That moment stayed with me longer than I expected. Then I saw it. Our car. It moved slowly past the street in front of the terminal. My heart jumped so fast it hurt. I ran toward the edge, waving. For a second, just one, I thought they had come back. My father was driving. My mother turned her head toward me. They saw me. I know they did. My father smiled. Not relieved, not worried, just amused. My mother leaned slightly toward him, saying something I couldn't hear. Then they both laughed. The car didn't stop. It kept going. I stood there, my hands still raised, my body frozen in place. That was the moment something inside me shifted permanently. It wasn't confusion anymore. It wasn't fear. It was understanding. I wasn't forgotten. I wasn't lost. I had been left. I don't remember how long I stood there after the car disappeared. Time stopped making sense. I was pacing near the edge of the terminal, my fingers gripping my sketchbook so tightly it bent at the corners, when someone finally stopped me. "Hey, are you here alone?" Her voice was calm, steady. I looked up and saw Grace Miller, a woman in her early 50s, medium height, slightly tired eyes but warm, observant. She wore a navy staff jacket with a name tag clipped near her chest. There was something about the way she looked at me. Not curious, not judgmental, just concerned. "I'm waiting for my parents," I said quickly. Too quickly. My voice sounded wrong even to me. Grace tilted her head slightly, studying me. "How long have you been waiting?" "I don't know." She didn't push. She just stood there, patient. That made it worse. Because patience felt unfamiliar, dangerous even. "Have you eaten today?" she asked softly. That question broke something inside me. The tears came fast, uncontrollable. My hands shook as I tried to wipe my face, embarrassed even then. They left," I whispered. "They drove away. They saw me. And they didn't stop." The words sounded unreal out loud, like I was describing someone else's life. Grace didn't interrupt. She stepped closer, her voice steady. "Okay. You're safe. I've got you." Everything moved quickly after that. Security arrived, then police. One officer, Officer Daniels, a tall man in his late 30s with a serious expression, asked questions while writing things down. Another officer stood nearby, Officer Rachel Kim, early 40s, petite, dark hair pulled into a low bun, calm but firm presence. She knelt slightly to meet my eye level. "You're not in trouble," she said. "You did nothing wrong." I sat wrapped in a thick gray coat Grace had given me because I couldn't stop shaking. I heard parts of the phone call when they reached my parents. My father's voice, calm, almost amused. My mother insisting it was just a lesson. Officer Daniel's expression hardened. "That's not a lesson, that's abandonment." The word echoed in my head. Later, I sat in a small office room holding a paper cup of water. Officer Kim stayed with me. She told me about her daughter, how she hated being left alone even for a few minutes. "Kids should feel safe," she said quietly. For the first time that day, I believed it might be true. Not for my parents, but maybe somewhere else. I didn't trust it at first. I didn't trust any of it. The house was quieter than I imagined. Not empty, just calm. That's where I met Daniel Hayes and Rebecca Hayes. Daniel was in his early 40s, tall and lean, with slightly messy brown hair and soft eyes that looked like they had seen enough of the world to choose kindness anyway. He spoke slowly, carefully, like every word mattered. Rebecca, late 30s, medium height, warm presence, shoulder-length auburn hair, had the kind of voice that never rushed you. She was a preschool teacher, which made sense. There was patience in everything she did. They didn't overwhelm me, they just stood there, giving me space to breathe. That first evening felt strange. No raised voices, no sudden lessons. Rebecca asked if I was hungry instead of telling me to eat. Daniel asked if I was tired instead of ordering me to go to bed. Even small things felt unfamiliar. Rebecca knocked before entering the room they gave me. Knocked. I didn't understand why that made my chest feel tight. I kept waiting for something to go wrong. For the shift. The moment where kindness turned into control. When Rebecca left the house for groceries and said, "I'll be back soon," I sat by the window the entire time, watching, counting minutes. My body didn't know how to believe her. Their son, Noah Hayes, was 15, tall for his age, slightly awkward, with messy dark hair and a quiet personality that made him seem older than he was. He didn't ask too many questions, just handed me a glass of water and said, "If you need anything, just ask." That was it. No pressure. Somehow that made it easier. A few days later, Daniel placed a small box on the desk in my room. Inside were sketchbooks, pencils, and a basic paint set. "I heard you like to draw," he said simply. No expectations, no conditions. I stared at it for a long time before touching it. That night, I drew again, not to escape, but because I wanted to. It took time, more than I expected, but slowly, something changed. I stopped flinching when doors opened. I stopped bracing for punishment after small mistakes. One night, as Rebecca knocked gently and asked if I needed anything, the word slipped into my mind before I could stop it. Home. Safety didn't come all at once. It came in pieces, and sometimes it didn't come at all. Even in a quiet house, my body stayed alert. Every sound felt like a warning. A door closing too loudly made my shoulders tense. Footsteps outside my room made my chest tighten. I was safe, but I didn't feel safe. That difference followed me everywhere. The worst moments were when I was left alone, even for a few minutes. One afternoon, Rebecca told me she was stepping out to pick up groceries. "I'll be back soon," she said gently. The second the door closed, something inside me snapped. My breathing turned shallow, my hands cold. I stood by the window, watching the street like my life depended on it. When her car finally came back into view, my whole body released at once. I hated that feeling, but I couldn't stop it. A few weeks later, I met Dr. Emily Carter, a therapist in her mid-40s, tall and slender, with calm blue eyes and a steady voice that never rushed. She had a quiet way of listening that made silence feel safe instead of heavy. Her office smelled faintly of lavender, soft lighting filling the space. "What you're feeling isn't weakness," she told me. "It's your mind trying to protect you." No one had ever said that to me before. Daniel and Rebecca never pushed. When I shut down, they waited. When I flinched, they softened. Rebecca kept knocking before entering my room. Daniel still left small art supplies on my desk without saying much. Their patience didn't demand anything, it just stayed. That steadiness slowly changed something inside me. At school, things weren't always easy. One boy, Tyler Brooks, around 16, tall, loud, the kind of kid who used sarcasm like a weapon, once grabbed my sketchbook and laughed at my drawings. Before I could react, Noah stepped in. His voice was calm but firm. "Give it back!" No shouting, no fear. Tyler backed off. That moment stayed with me. Someone stood up for me, and nothing bad happened after. I started writing things down, thoughts, fears, memories I couldn't say out loud. I even entered a small local student art exhibition. When I saw my work on the wall for the first time, something shifted. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was creating. Slowly, carefully. I was becoming someone stronger. Not the version my parents tried to force, but someone I chose to be. The voicemail ended, but the silence after it felt louder than anything I had ever heard. The message wasn't from my parents. It was from Emma Harper, my younger sister. Her voice was softer than I remembered, fragile, like something life had worn down over time. Emma, now in her mid-20s, had always been small, quiet, with wide eyes that used to follow me around the house when we were kids. She said our parents had lost everything, the business, the house, their reputation, and now they wanted to find me. I didn't believe it at first, but then I started searching. Old articles, public records, their names weren't untouchable anymore. Complaints, lawsuits, financial collapse. The image they had built, the perfect family, was gone. It didn't fall slowly, it shattered. Emma called again later that night. She told me things I never knew, how they lied about me, how they said I was difficult, ungrateful, that I chose to leave. Her voice broke when she said, "I didn't know the truth until recently." She had read the case files herself, and after that, she stopped talking to them too. I sat on the floor, my back against the couch, shadow pressed tightly against my side. He didn't move, didn't leave, not even when I did. Ethan sat across from me, quiet, watching. "You don't owe them anything," he said gently. He was right, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was the part of me that still wanted answers. Not forgiveness, not closure, just truth. That night I opened the old files, reports, statements, words like abandonment, emotional abuse written in cold, official language. I read every page slowly. Not because I needed to remember, but because I needed to understand what had been done to me. Without excuses. By morning, the decision was clear. I wasn't going back to fix anything. I wasn't going back to help them. I was going back for myself. To stand in front of them, not as the girl they left behind, but as someone who survived them. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and something heavier. Regret, maybe. I walked into the room slowly, my steps steady even if my chest wasn't. My mother, Elaine, looked smaller than I remembered, her once perfect posture now fragile, her blonde hair thinner, her face drawn tight with illness. My father, Richard, sat beside her, shoulders no longer broad with confidence but slightly hunched, like life had finally pressed down on him. For a moment, no one spoke. They looked at me like I was something distant, something they didn't know how to name anymore. "I'm not here to fix anything," I said first. My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. "You didn't make a mistake. You chose it." My father opened his mouth, but I didn't let him finish. "You left a child alone and called it a lesson." The silence after that felt heavier than anything they could have said. My mother's eyes filled with tears, but I didn't move. Not this time. I expected anger, rage, something loud, but it wasn't there. What I felt was clarity. Cold, steady clarity. "I don't hate you," I said, "but I don't need you either." That was the truth they never prepared for. Not anger, not revenge, just absence. Emma stood quietly near the door. When I turned to her, I saw the same uncertainty I once carried. I reached for her hand gently. "You don't have to stay in this," I told her. That moment wasn't about them. It was about breaking something that had lasted too long. Forgiveness didn't mean I accepted what they did. It meant I stopped carrying it. I left the room without looking back. The hallway felt brighter somehow, lighter. For the first time, the past didn't feel like something chasing me. It felt like something behind me. Ethan was waiting outside, leaning against the wall, his expression soft but steady. He stepped forward, took my hand, and then, unexpectedly, knelt. "You already built a life from nothing," he said quietly. "Let me build the rest with you." I laughed through tears and nodded. Weeks later, I stood again at the ferry terminal. Same wind, same water, but everything felt different. I wasn't that girl anymore. I had a life, a future, and something more. I started a small foundation for children like me, those who needed someone to see them the way Grace once saw me. This time, I didn't wait. I turned and walked forward. So, what would you choose? Would you go back to the people who broke you? Or walk away and protect the life you rebuilt? Forgive them because they're family, or hold your ground because some wounds don't deserve a second chance. Is letting go a sign of strength, or just another way of giving up? If they came back only when they needed you, would you open the door or close it forever? And if you were Lily, would you stay or would you leave? Tell me your choice in the comments. I really want to know where you stand. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful, emotional stories like this, because some stories don't just entertain, they make you think.